Welcome to Enjoy the Journey podcast, where we interview expert entrepreneurs and thought leaders to help guide you in pursuit of financial freedom. Presented to you by Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, where we help service-based business owners remove cash flow bottlenecks, maximize their profits, and turn business profits into personal wealth.
G'day guys, this is Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, and I'm here for an amazing interview with a good friend of mine, James Short. And James and I have known each other for quite a while now, and James has been working on an amazing new venture that I knew I needed to get behind. Although I'm not a father, we've got a lot of clients that are fathers, and we've observed many kind of interesting behaviors around dads-to-be and new dads when it comes to going into fatherhood. And it's something that's not often spoken about. So I wanted to use this platform to have a conversation with James, to pick his brain around the subject and hopefully inspire many of you guys to be better dads, to be more proactive, have better connections with your partners and your children, and essentially make sure that you've got that balance in your life that you're trying to achieve. So James, thanks for joining us, mate. How's things?
Jackson, mate, it's an honor and a privilege to be here. Really, thank you for allowing me to share the platform, and I'm excited.
I'm looking forward to having a yarn with you, mate. It's always a good time. So James, talk to us a little bit about this journey that you're on at the moment.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. It actually started when I was 5, right? When thinking back, it's amazing how the universe puts these pieces of the puzzle together. But my journey started back when I was 5, when my dad left mum. It was myself and my 3 sisters, thinking then, I need to be the man of the house. And he's obviously then gone to remarried, and he's twice again. And just dad not being there. Obviously, we were there every second weekend, just due to the courts. But just there's that whole disengagement of what not to do growing up. And I look back in that time of, dad doing his best with the resources he had back then, of not wanting to communicate, not wanting to talk things out, and where I could see my mum and my stepmom just pleading, like, let's just have a chat. And I thought back to myself, I don't want to repeat this pattern. And obviously over the time with loads of courses and workshops and working on myself. And then over the last 10 years on the coaching space, I've realized that the more conversations I'm having, particularly with clients who are dads as well, there's a massive gap. And yes, we're working on the business side of things, but the conversation goes very quickly to the home life and how to navigate through the times with their partner, with their children, how to juggle business. And then my wonderful wife, Nat, she's a midwife, and she runs a 2-day program called Calm Birth, which is helping parents transition into parenthood, looking at the beliefs and behaviors and the physiology around birthing and the role of the partner. But I realized there was a massive gap for the dads. Usually the mums or the women are there dragging them to these courses. There was a gap around, well, how do the guys get set? How do the dads get set up for this big occasion? And that's why I thought my history of what I went through personally, through my coaching clients and helping them navigate stuff. And then obviously with Nat, my wife, there's been a beautiful blend of some resources and some structures and some tools to help dads in this amazing time.
Yeah, this is really interesting, mate, because my parents separated when I was only a couple of months old. So I never really knew anything other than my parents being apart. But there's a lot of issues that we see out there, particularly for business owners, of, in some cases, kind of absentee fathers. And obviously, there's varying degrees of this, right? But I think the common theme here is, James, that many business owners, particularly who are men, feel like they either need to be present for their business to be able to provide for their family, or they need to be present for their family at the detriment of their business. So what have you noticed out there in regards to dads specifically that are running a business in regards to these themes?
Yeah, it's so true. Like, there's been so many examples of talking to dads with who are business owners, and the common theme is that the perception that they think they need to go out and earn all this money in order to provide, yet they're at the detriment of spending time with the kids. And then the aspect of the guilt coming over them of, oh, I'm out working, but then I'm not supporting my partner and spending time with my children, and looking at their mindset of bringing their work mindset to the home life, which, as guys, we like to solve problems. Our days are problem solving. Let's go. And that same energy of bringing into the home life doesn't necessarily work. And so they're the three major things of the perception of, well, I've got to go and earn this money. The reason why I've got this business is for my family, but yet I'm never home. The guilt aspect of trying to juggle home life and spending time with the kids. And then obviously that whole mindset around who's showing up at work, but also who's showing up at home. It's huge.
And it's interesting, right? I've got a lot of friends and colleagues that are relatively new dads, and many of them are business owners. And the common thing that they say is, well, for the first 12 months, I can't do anything. And I think it's that problem-solving mindset where, yes, there are no problems that you can effectively solve, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be present. And I think this sometimes leads into, well, that they can't solve problems there, so they've got to go double down on the business, and this creates this vicious cycle.
And that's the thing, right? Because I call that out. I call that BS. There is so much you can do. There is so much to support, and it is not about necessarily solving problems, but it's about being present. It's about turning up. It's about, it's interesting stat between the ages of 0 and 5, 90% of your child's brain is fully developed. And the studies have just come out recently, which I've been reading, which is phenomenal. When a baby sees their father in the cot, their brain receptors light up and they actually start to lean forward, where they see the mother's vision, because the vision is the first thing that comes as a sensory aspect. And then they see the mother, they start to more pacify because they're used to the mother putting them down. So that brain development in the first couple of years, in the first 12 months in particular, is so important for the father to be there to really help that brain development. And there's some amazing studies out there to show the impact of the father's energy around that newborn to help their development of that child's brain. It's just phenomenal.
And I expect that not many parents know these kinds of things, right?
No, and that's the thing, right? There's some latest research out from New South Wales Health around the importance of the first 2,000 days between the ages of 0 and 5 and the impact on brain development. And this is where, like I hear so often, there's nothing I can do. Well, go and educate yourself. How many business courses have you been to? How many mentors, how many coaches have you got for your business? What about life? What about relationships? What about education for your kids? Not just schooling, but how to develop that relationship. What are you educating yourself and learning about your child's development and your growth? You are the biggest mentor and coach for your number one fan, which is your children. So how are you sharpening your saw? How are you sharpening your skills? And this is where it's such an important, I can't do anything. No, BS, I'll call it out right now. And it's the ability to step up as a father, as a role model, because they're looking for you for guidance. And that's where it's coming down to be that role model, be the person that, that role model that you want to be for your child. It's super important in those first few years.
I think this is really key. It's just a different perspective of looking at things. And I think there's a lot that changes. And I've seen this shift in colleagues and clients and friends of ours, that dads before they have children to after. What do you think are the biggest things that change?
I think the biggest things that change is the unknown. It's just like, okay, the business has got to be ready. The home's got to be ready. This has got to be ready. Where's my cash flow? What am I going to do? How am I going to be? It's all those internal questions that's going round and round and round. And then what happens is the magical day happens. And then that goes into, where is my role now? What am I supposed to do? I used to get all this attention from my partner, that now my partner is so overtired, I'm not even getting a look in. So as you said before, I'll go down and double down in my business. I am not wanted. Where do I fit in the world, so to speak? And, these are big thought processes, but this is very true what a lot of men go through. And some of the recent stats that 1 in 10 fathers actually suffer postnatal depression. So it's very interesting to, unless they talk about it, unless they have a platform or buddy or a mentor or someone to share their insights, depression is very, very prevalent in new fathers. And so this is where coming back into the education, this is coming back into learning, okay, what are the development phases? You can have a role, you can check in with your partner. And sometimes the partner doesn't need everything fixed. They just need to vent. They just need to let it all out. And that's totally fine as well. So there is some big differences before and after.
That's really scary, James, because that's probably one thing that I've really never heard spoken about is the postnatal depression in men. Very commonly spoken about in women, but I think men is just that kind of thing that we just taboo to talk about, and most just don't even bring it up.
And like those stats are 2018.
Wow.
So I'm really concerned about what the stats of this year is going to hold.
Yeah.
It's very alarming. We know that out of the 2018 reform around mental health has been released publicly, and that mental health is up there as the major concern right now. As we look at fathers, it's growing. So it needs to be talked about. It needs to be shared. And guys, we just need to talk out. If it's a mate, if it's a buddy, if it's someone that you don't know, as long as you can feel comfortable and safe to talk about feelings. Like we ran a program last week, our dad's program, and like, as I said, I cried 4 times. That's what it was. And so the guys around the program, because it was a safe space, right? They were vulnerable. They said, hey, this is what's going on for me. And just by getting them to open up and sharing, they go, mate, I've never done that before. And that's allowed the space for them to move through what they had to move through to get some insights and some aha moments to then go, okay, what can I do to move forward?
It's so important. I think once you kind of take that first step, the first step's always the hardest one. It's getting that initial momentum. Thinking about soon-to-be dads who are business owners, that they've got a kid on the way, they're not sure what to do. What would be your advice to them?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things. Is first thing is to educate yourself. There are so many books out there. There are so many resources out there of what to expect as you go through the different trimesters. For guys, it's every 3 months up until the birth. Attend some of the courses with your partner and be present at the courses. Don't just sit back chewing gum and not be engaged. So the first one is really educate yourself. The second one is communication. I think communication is so vital with your partner through this time. It's about going through and looking at, well, what are our beliefs and behaviors around birth and as a parent. Well, I remember having a chat with Nat when we had our first child. It was like, cool, well, what are our expectations and behaviors and beliefs around parenting? And we brought our own stuff to the table. Like, well, let's have a conversation around that, because otherwise you're going to parent one way, I'm going to parent the other way, and it's just going to fall to pieces and the kids are going to play us off each other. And the third one is planning. You are the expert around planning with the business and with cash flow and really structure of getting these business owners to the place where they want to go to build their wealth. There's no difference when it comes to planning for your children. Yes, sometimes it won't all fall to fruition, but by communicating with your partner, planning of, okay, well, we need to get this done and that done. What it does, it just helps you to be on that same page with your partner, and you can really do this together rather than doing it individually.
Amazing. That's so important. I think from what I've observed is that many blokes heading into being a dad, whether it's a first time or even second, third time, or sometimes more around, they just still feel so lost of what to do. And they just kind of winging it. She'll be right. I'll work it out, deal with it as it comes. So, mate, let's talk about in hindsight. I guess we've always got 20/20 vision in hindsight, but what about people who are already dads? They're business owners and they don't feel like they're hitting their strides and they're not living up to their fullest potential. What would be your advice to them?
Yeah, I guess there's 3 things in. The first one is who's showing up. And what I mean by that is when you show up to a business meeting, who's that? What are the characteristics? We have 555 characteristics within us, and we draw upon different characteristics at different times. So you draw upon the sales leader or the business owner or the wheeler and dealer or whoever out in your business hat. But we also need to do that with our partner, and also we need to do that with our kids. So it's the ability to really, who do you want to be? And I do this little exercise every time I come home from presenting or workshops or coaching, because I like this, I'm a million miles an hour. It's like, go, 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 go. But it's the same energy I can't do with the kids, because otherwise I rev them up and it's just the household just goes a mess. So I sit in my car and I think, okay, where am I about to go into? Okay, I'm about to go into home. Who do I need to be? I need to be the loving husband and the amazing dad. All right, when was I last that? And I think about a time in the past and I can see it, hear it, feel it, taste it, touch it, and I immerse myself into that past experience. And next minute, when I'm that, I just, my energy drops. I become more engaged, more present. I walk in the door and it's like, dad's home. And I feel the energy shift. And it's just amazing. And that's about who's showing up. So it's about who's showing up in the right environment at the right time. The second piece is around leading by example. And I see this so often, particularly as the kids get older, putting them into sport and so forth and trying to push them into this. And well, what are you doing? You know, what are you doing by leading by example? Are you sitting in the car, drinking a Coca-Cola and eating a meat pie? Or are you out there going for a walk and getting yourself fit and active? Because the kids will look at you and lead, and they will look at, well, oh, is that what happens is being a dad? You just sit back and relax. I'm very proud of what I do with all my crazy races. And I had a huge proud dad moment where I do all these crazy races and runs, ultra marathon races. And I remember when the kids were born, my two younger ones, I thought, you know what, I can't wait for the day when they actually want to come out and train with me. Well, last week it was. I got them up the night before. They said, Dad, can we come training with you? I said, oh my gosh, all the prayers have been answered. I got them up at 4:30 a.m. in the morning, and we hit some stairs down at Coogee Beach all together. We had a swim. We had brekkie together. I dropped them to school, and it was like, this is living. So lead by example. The third one is communication, which is key, particularly with your partner, is constant communication. Even though you sometimes may not like what you hear, but communicating and being open and honest will allow you to work through any situations. And that's what the kids are looking at. How are mum and dad communicating? Is dad going in his cave, or is he actually prepared to have a communication, courageous conversation, work through stuff and show the kids how it's done?
I think it's the hardest conversations that are the most important ones to have. So I think that's super key. And mate, I guess on the first point that you mentioned, once you get into the habit of doing these types of rituals where you can change your state, it's something that becomes unconsciously competent, that it just happens.
Yep.
But for those who maybe don't have experience in doing that, what can be some prompts for you that can make yourself aware that you're not bringing the right state back home, and then to be able to center yourself in that position? What would be the best way to go about that to start creating that habit?
Yeah, I think having what I call anchors. So for me, the driveway is an anchor. Choose an anchor that you go, all right, I'm about to change environment. If that's leaving the office door, if that's driving in your driveway, or if that's even driving in your car on the way home, have a little reminder. And that little reminder could be a little rubber band on the steering wheel, or an alarm go off. Actually, okay, I'm about to go in at 5 o'clock. Great. Have the alarm set off for you if that's on a regular basis for you. So little things that will spark that reminder, because these tiny habits, motivation will only last a little while, but we need to have a prompt, and we need to have something that's going to change that reminder to allow us to change this habit. So by looking at an activity that's going to allow you to shift that little mindset, that's going to have a massive impact.
Beautiful. That's great advice, mate. So what about some dads that might have some regrets? What do you think are the biggest regrets that you see in dads who kind of look back and they kind of wish they did things differently? And what can they do about it?
It's never too late. It's the ability to stop. And, you know, the biggest regret I hear all the time is time, not spending enough time with the kids. But you know what? Doesn't matter how old they are, having that time with them. And in particular, if you've got a couple of kids, one-on-one, because kids, when they gang up together, they're a whole different ball game. But when you've got some one-on-one time with them, you can go deep. One of the biggest things I suggest is to get away together. Every couple of months, choose a child, and even for a night or 2 nights, get away and just to rebuild that bond. Doesn't matter how young or how old they are, that special connection, particularly with their dad, has a massive impact. Doesn't matter how old they are, even if they're adult children, spend that time, because you will never get that time back again.
I think that's great advice. I don't think people do that often enough. The complexity of life, everyone gets caught in the whirlwind. You just got to take that time out. You change your environment, and then you can change what happens in that environment. So, mate, I know you got a program for dads that's called the Real Dads Program. So what does REAL stand for?
Yeah, so REAL, the reason why I came up with REAL is to look at the acronym of REAL, and there's 4 key areas. R is respect, and it's looking at how do we have our self-respect in ourselves? How do we have respect for our partner? And how do we have respect for our children? And on all 3 things. And it's really interesting when we do this self-reflection. A guy from one of our participants from our last program did this, and it was huge. He had a huge realization of the lack of self-respect that he had on himself, particularly around his health, and what he can now do about it. And also the lack of respect for partner, thinking he's got to go work, missing out on that quality time with his kids. So we look at respect. The other aspect is E stands for emotional awareness. And this is around understanding your own emotions and how to deal with them. And then also how to deal with understanding other people's emotions and how to deal with them. With your partner, you're going to have an emotional roller coaster. Hormones are going crazy. there's sleepless nights. It's all over the shop. And when we can control our own emotions, oh, it's amazing. Because what happens when emotions are high, logic is low, and so therefore, when you're a higher emotional state, you're not going to make sense. All right. And so this is how to deal with that emotions and how to deal and come back to the present, come back and create logic in your life. And so that's E, that's emotional awareness. A is being adaptable. And this is looking at what hat you need to your different environments and how to quickly adapt to those different environments and those different hats. And the last one is L for loving. And this is not about the smushy stuff and, the date nights, but this is about compassion. How do we bring compassion back to our relationships and really be there for one another? And we've got some amazing tools and strategies for the dads to really walk away. What I call your toolkit, right? Everyone knows their toolkit, but a toolkit for dads to really reconnect with their partner, reconnect with their children, or if they haven't got kids yet and about to, how to actually do that when the big day's here.
Amazing. That sounds fantastic, James. Look, I guess many dads, because they don't talk about this kind of stuff, this is a really taboo subject. Like money, it's something that most people don't talk about. So would you mind giving us some practical examples of how you've applied the real system and what impact it's had?
Yeah. So one example is the adaptability. And it's about really being present. We did this a couple of programs ago, far out, and the response was amazing. So one of the guys rang me the next day and he said, Shorty, I implemented that straight away. And oh my gosh, the kids were completely different. I said, what do you mean? I really tuned into me being the best version of me as a dad. And what I realized was that every time I hadn't done this in the past, I was so disengaged. I was on my phone when I got home. The kids were on screen time. I was yelling, the missus were yelling, and it was just so reactive. And I did that little exercise that you showed me in the course. And I came in and I was super present. I was engaged with the kids. They put their phones and iPads down and they crawling all over me. The missus was really engaged and warm. And it was one of the best nights we've ever had as a family. I went, wow, that's huge. That is huge.
That's amazing.
And the other aspect was coming back to the respect component and looking at that self-respect. What this dad realized was that he wasn't having any respect at all. He was giving it away. He was giving his power away to everyone else but himself, particularly on the work front. And when we really unpacked it, he was, he rated his health and fitness a 2 out of 10. And we came up with some strategies, just go from a 2 to a 4. And he rang me 2 weeks after the course and he goes, oh my gosh, mate, I am back. My energy is huge. I've got my confidence back. I've got my drive and initiative back, and I've got my self-power back. And so these are cool little strategies that once you implement it, they're not hard to do, that have massive gains in your life. It's beautiful to see.
That's amazing, mate. It just goes to show that these small shifts can have such exponential change. And I guess it's these this principle of a 1% change. I think the longer you leave it, obviously, the harder it is to sometimes undo the damage. But it's 1% change, and you do this on a daily basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis, can have profound impacts on your relationship at home, the relationship with your kids. And I think in our experience, we talk a lot about money, but I think anybody on their deathbed never wishes that they made more money or spent more time in the office. They always wish they spent more time with their family, having better experiences, doing more. So I think this is a great platform for people to get more and to craft more of those amazing experiences.
So true. And that's the thing, right? You look back and the amount of time that, you may have spent in the office or at meetings and so forth, you won't get that time back. But you know what? You can do something about it today. You can do something about it tomorrow. And you have that choice. You have that ability. It's just depend on what's your willingness. What are your willingness to make that decision and make that choice? Because you know what? The good thing about it, we've all got choices. And you know what? Your client will be there tomorrow. Your business will still be there tomorrow. But, having that impact and having that time for your family, it pays huge dividends.
Amazing, mate. So I know that you've got a new book. So what's the new book about, mate?
So this is what's called our back pocket guide in being a real dad. And it goes through just some great little tips and strategies to help dads as they transition into parenthood. It's a quick little read that you can jump on our website, which is theparentsnest.com.au, and download that, have a good read. And it's just a super easy read for dads to start that journey and start, once again, coming back to education and willing to learn.
Amazing, mate. Look, I think, guys, it's the first step that you can take. It's a very small step that you can take to create a catalyst for hopefully some pretty tremendous change for the future. So, James, look, I appreciate you making the time, mate. It's always a privilege talking to you. It's been some exceptional value. And guys, if you've listened to this or watched this and anything that James has spoken about has resonated with you, just realize it's never too late. Make sure that you make the time, grab a copy of his book, reach out to have a conversation. Look, James, if people want to work with you in a greater capacity other than the book, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Just jump on theparentsnest.com.au, send us a message, and let's have a chat.
Awesome. Fantastic, mate. Great to catch up with you, and looking forward to speaking again soon.
Thanks, Jackson. Really appreciate it, mate. Take care.
Take care, mate.